area that we really have to look at with our projects is multiple perspectives. That the project should show multiple perspectives or voices on the topic. So I have an example here again. So let's imagine that we are, our project focuses on the expansion of slavery to the Western territories. So we're looking at the time period, say 1800 to 1860. So the person that you see pictured there is Stephen Douglas. Stephen Douglas was a very powerful senator from Illinois, and his perspective on this was summed up with popular sovereignty. So Douglas says, let's let the people who live in each state decide whether they want this state or this territory to have slavery or not. So that's one perspective on the question. So the next person you see is, of course, Abraham Lincoln. Well, Abraham Lincoln has a different perspective. So Lincoln and Douglas famously debate when they were both going for the senator from Illinois position. And, you know, Lincoln says he does not want to see slavery expand to any other Western territories, that he isn't going to change slavery where it already existed, but he didn't want to see it expand. And so you might think at this point that you'd really sort of covered the multiple perspectives, because we've got Douglas saying, yes, let's allow slavery to expand. Let's let the people decide. You've got Lincoln saying, no, we don't want to allow slavery to expand to the Western territories. But that's not the only voice. So this third gentleman you see here, this is Dred Scott. Dred Scott was an enslaved person whose owner took him into a free territory and then returned with him to the state of Missouri, which was a slave state. And so Dred Scott sued for his freedom on the basis that he had been taken to a free territory and that should make him free. So here's another perspective on slavery in the territories. And if you guys are familiar, this case goes all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made a very famous decision in the Dred Scott case and actually ruled that because the Fifth Amendment does not allow for your right to own property to be interfered with by the federal government, that all of the Western territories were open to slavery, whether people wanted it or not. Like, it wasn't going to be covered by popular sovereignty. So that's an entirely different way of looking at the expansion of slavery to the West. So you've really got multiple different perspectives on this question. Now, probably none of you are doing a project that relates to the expansion of slavery in the American West, but you really want to think about who has a power in this event, who is affected by this, and what is their take on it. So a lot of times when we look at perspective, we kind of think of it in terms of like pros and cons, for and against, but it really goes deeper. And so when you start doing that more detailed analysis, like Ms. Oakley spoke about, you may find that, you know, there are multiple different perspectives. There are multiple different ways, different groups or organizations that have a stake in whatever you're researching and learning about. And so you want to make sure that you're trying to share as many of those different perspectives or voices as possible.